only way that I can come out of this much anxiety. I had so much anxiety about also like how I'm going to be when I am in that future position. Like, I think I interviewed with one of these positions either in February or March. No, February. So I accepted the job in February. So then I had to wait to get my Oregon medical license, right? Until, so March, and then end of April, it was going to start the job. Somehow I went into panic mode. I couldn't understand it, like literally from it wasn't reasonable necessarily. It was like, I was like, why am I just so panicked? Definitely one was that I was like, I'm going into this unknown position. I haven't done rheumatology at that point. Would have been like, by the time I would start would be like 8 months or something like that, maybe longer. And all of a sudden I was super in doubt of myself. I was like, I don't know anything. Like, I've forgotten maybe things, even though, come to think of it, like, I did go even longer and then went back to rheumatology, right? So it's not like, but I started to, and there has been a lot of new drugs that have come out in the past year or two. So I was like, just trying to frantically read, but it wasn't really necessarily helpful, because when you do anything frantically, it's probably not that helpful.
You were studying. I forgot about that. You were studying every day.
I was studying.
Watching lectures, Vumedi.
Yeah. And then I was also just kind of like in just panic mode and preparation mode in my head, like, how's it going to be? Where are we going to stay? And so I was like thinking about like how many patients I'm going to see and how many hours of like pre-charting I have to do to get to know the patients, how many hours of post-charting, and then the in-basket. And so I was like getting into like a panic, for a while.
So when that was happening, like what were some of your...
Thinking about it now gives me anxiety.
What were some of your like tactics of like dealing with it? What were some of your outs? What were you doing?
To deal with the anxiety?
To deal with the anxiety, to cope with it.
Well, I was doing several things. One was like just kind of trying to like understand why I was anxious, and like, write down like, okay, well, it's this. Okay, so you're really anxious about like maybe feeling like you're not good enough and like need to know more, right? Knowledge. So I was studying for that, but I was also trying to deal with it, like talk to Tom Compton, who is like sort of like my therapist. He's not a therapist, but he's my, facilitator of the work of Byron Katie. And I've been working with them, and it was more like to kind of like see what is this underlying belief, and like where is it coming from? So kind of dealing with the mental aspect of thing and the thoughts that are behind this anxiety. I was also trying to like talk to this Ayurvedic physician that I've been seeing for the past few years. That's been really helpful to me. And I got some supplements for anxiety. And then it's like a mix of like, saffron and ashwagandha and things like that. But it wasn't, nothing initially was working. Like none of these things were really helping me feel better. Oh, and I also did, like at some point I had so much anxiety, I was doing tapping, right? Like I was like, that's actually really helpful. Like it's kind of an immediate help with anxiety. So you get a little bit lower.
You were doing the workouts with Amir Hossein from Iran.
Yeah, as well, we started working out with him when we were in Europe, right? And so I would continue to work out sort of like virtually sometimes 3 times a week. Also talked to like the locums, and none of this was helpful because I was like, can they give me a scribe? Or I would like email the chief and say, hey, exactly how many patients do you want me to see? Like I was like,
You were
kind of like emailing, trying to like just like see, okay, like maybe it's not going to be as bad as you
get
think.
a better feel for like, what am I really walking into?
Right.
Because you really didn't have a good feel. This is the odd part. Like we really had no clue what we're walking into. And I wonder if maybe this medical group themselves didn't really know, their department, what else is out there, so they couldn't really paint a good picture for you. It can sometimes also just be communication. But I know that you were trying to back out of it.
Right.
For a week or two before.
I considered it. I definitely considered, Well, I don't know if I definitely thought about it. I was like,
Right.
this is an option. As I was getting closer though, as the recruiting company paid for my like medical license, of course I was like, oh shit, like they're already paid for my medical license. And this was another thing. They weren't willing to get my housing until my medical license goes through. And that was also stressing me out because I'm like, I don't know where I'm going to be. I really like to be in an environment that is cozy
Looks
and
pleasant.
feels good to me. I didn't want to be somewhere that's just like dark or, I didn't want to, it was important to me. And so I ended up just ultimately booking it myself, right? But before that, yeah, I considered it. I kind of feel like there was a turning point for me. There was a night that I had like a lot of anxiety, and then I really sat with myself and sort of like sorted it out in my head. But I don't know, maybe it wasn't just that. Maybe it was like all the work I did, maybe it was supplements I was taking, but it was like after that,
I remember you had
started
almost close to a breakdown, but you like really went into it and you like dealt with it. And I think the next morning you were like, you had some...
because like the breakdown was when I had thought, okay, I'm seeing 16 patients max. But then when I one day I talked to the chief and she was like, yeah, so we have this in basket and you have to cover all these other people.
An infusion center.
You're covering the person that you're covering for. And then you're covering your own patients that you see, and and then you're also covering whoever else is not there on any given day. And then there's like an infusion center that you're also covering. And so then I was like, oh my God. Like I was like panicking. And then she was like, well, our schedule is every 20/40. So then I was like, oh my God, if it's 20/40, there's no way that it's going to be 16 patients total. And so that night that I was really freaking out, I sat and wrote down like what was freaking me out. And I was like, it just kind of got really real. And I was like, okay, here are the options. You can either just say, I don't want to go, right? And whatever is the price you pay for it, essentially. Like, I think I just went to that kind of a technique of like, what's the worst thing? And I realized that the only way that I can come out of this much anxiety, I had so much anxiety about also like, how I'm going to be when I am in that future position. Like I saw myself in this job being really overwhelmed, being like even like crying at work or getting bitchy or like, and I was like, I didn't want that. I was like, I do not want this Niloo. I don't want to be having people see me like that. And so I was constantly seeing myself as this overwhelmed, kind of out of control, not being able to handle it, giving a notice, whatever. And I was like not okay with that. And on the other hand, I wasn't like 100% sure that's how it's going to be. So I didn't want to say, no, I don't want to go.
Yeah.
Right? So then I realized, okay, Niloo, you're not 100% sure that it's going to be like this. Obviously, if you were 100% sure, you'd be like, I'm definitely not going. So you do want this adventure. And so you just have to accept that all of those sides of you. You just accept it. There's going to be a bitch maybe that'll come out or a crybaby or whatever. And it was like super clear that like, yeah, that's what I have to do. Like I have to just accept those. That what's the worst thing? Yeah, I went to the worst thing. And then I was like, and it was just so amazing. It was like this, like almost like a spiritual moment of like being like, just like, I need to just accept myself. And then I feel like after that, I kind of just dropped it. Like, I feel like I was like emailing them and asking them like, how is it going to be? Am I going to have a scribe? And then I was like, well, let's just go see what it is.
As we say.
Fuck hello. Yeah. And I think I stopped having as much anxiety after that.
You also, I think, came to terms with that, but you also had your out, which was if you didn't like it within the first month, you were going to bail.
They had told me that from the beginning.
And one of your other friends had told you about it. The one who does ICU coverage.
Yeah, so the only other person I know that does locum. And if you guys know any other locum, especially rheumatologists, please let us know because I would love to...
Comment section. Comment.
Yeah, because I would love to connect with other locum rheumatologists especially. But I have a friend who does locum pulmonology. Like, for example, she told me she doesn't accept more than 15 patients in clinic. She was like, that's my max. But she also hates clinic. She's like, I just want to do ICU. But the recruiting person, that was my point of contact, told me that you have a month and they have a month. They have to tell you,
they might let you go after a month.
You have to give a month of notice, right? But after a month, they can decide they don't want you, or they've found somebody permanent, or you can decide. But of course, then he would say, like, it's never happened. So of course, then you have that pressure. I don't want to be that person. It's like, I realized so much of my anxiety was, I don't want to be that person. And once I was like, I'm okay being that person, because even though I don't want to be that person, but it's possible that I'll be that person.